This program is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It does not contain medical advice. Always contact your physician or qualified healthcare provider with any questions regarding a medical condition. Hello to you from wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. This is Refined for the Mind. I'm your host, Tracy Kawabito. Thank you again for tuning in to listen, and I hope that you're open today. I hope your mind is open. I hope that your heart is open, because we are still talking about the subject of meditation. If you haven't yet listened to the previous episode, we explored mindfulness-based stress reduction as taught by Jon Kabat-Zinn. And on this week's episode, we are going to talk about Vipassana. Vipassana is a meditation technique that I have been practicing for 2 years. Obviously, it's existed longer than I have. It's existed longer than you have. It's been here for thousands of years. And today I just want us to talk about it and, learn a bit about it and, understand what is it about. But before we do that, I want you to understand that the path of meditation is deep and wide. It's up to you to choose what works for you. There are people who choose mantras. There are people who choose transcendental meditation. There are so many various techniques of meditation. And so don't feel the need to conform to just either Vipassana or mindfulness-based stress reduction. The most important thing is that you find a path that works for you, a path that feels right for you, and you trust that and explore it and learn about it and practice it. And so I've been practicing Vipassana meditation for 2 years now. And boy, oh boy. So today I want to play the rules by the book, but I'm also going to just mostly talk about what I've experienced on a personal level, while practicing the meditation technique. So what is Vipassana meditation technique, or what does it entail? It entails self-transformation through self-observation. The word Vipassana in the language of the Buddha means seeing things as they are. Now, when I first started out my journey with meditation, I was using music, which I'm sure is something that many people have done. If you've explored meditation before, you've either done mindfulness meditation techniques that are through applications, or you've used music, or you've used drums. Everyone has something. Some people have used mantras. But when I started out with music. And it was helpful in that sense. But that meant that if I wasn't using music, I wasn't able to meditate. And eventually I started to learn more about meditation. Then I tried the mindfulness-based stress reduction meditation, and that too has its place in my life. And I'm so grateful that I found all these techniques. And now that I've been practicing Vipassana meditation has a strict discipline. Think of what I'm about to tell you as like how you think of the 10 commandments. We have the commandments that tell you do not kill, do not do this, do not do that. So when you are setting out to go for a Vipassana course, there are certain things that you have to abide by. One of them is not killing. One of them is, they say abstain from killing. The other one is you abstain from all sexual immorality. The other one is you abstain from using intoxicants. It's just about you really getting quiet in there. These are some of the things that you will need to comply with. These are some of the rules that you need to follow if you're going to practice the Vipassana technique. And it's taught within a course. So unlike most of the episodes where I have been leading you through a meditation exercise, I will still lead you through a mindfulness exercise at the end. But we are not, as students of Vipassana, we are not allowed to teach the technique, because the technique has a strict discipline. And if you start to experience certain things, you would need to be within the confines of a course in order for someone else to tell you what it is that you're experiencing within your body or within your mind. So because it deals with self-transformation through self-observation, if you haven't yet listened to our episode on knowing thyself, you need to go back to the first episode, because it's also important. This is part of the journey. This is part of understanding the meditation technique. And think of it like if you're in a shooting range, you have to have a target. And if you don't have a target that you're going to shoot at, then you're going to miss. And it's likely that you will miss. So you need to have that discipline. You're asked to stay silent for 10 days. Yes, you heard that right. You see how much I like, if you know me and if we're friends, you know that I like to have conversations with people. But imagine I signed up for a discipline that requires of me to keep quiet for 10 days. That is the real test of life, because You can't make gestures towards anyone. You cannot talk to anybody unless, of course, you're talking to the teachers. Unless, of course, you have questions about the practice. And even in talking to the teachers, you're not talking about things that you like, perceptions that you have about the experience and whatnot. It's the reality as it is. That's what the word Vipassana means in the Pali language, the language of the Buddha. It means seeing things as they are, not with no imaginations, with no memories or anything. It's you see everything as it is, and you observe this reality within your body. So it has a lot to do with paying attention to what's happening on a physical level. So how do you do this, or how do you practice Vipassana? Vipassana starts out by observing the breath. It explores the truth about oneself using the breath. You use the breath to concentrate your mind. This happens for the first 3 days. You sit for meditation, and you observe the breath going in and the breath going out as naturally as you can. You do not try to control it, because it's something that comes to us naturally. We are always breathing, but the moment someone tells you, breathe or observe your breath, then you start to control it. But if you notice, the breath is something that comes naturally to you. It's not something that you are aware of most of the times. You're not even aware that sometimes your breath changes depending on what's going on within your life at that time. If you're apprehensive, if you're angry, if you're happy, if you're overly zealous, if you're joyful, whatever it is that you're feeling, your breath changes. Your breath changes, but we're not aware of these things. But the moment someone tells you, I need you to pay attention to your breath, then suddenly it becomes a war of learning how to breathe. Your breath is natural to you. And so this is the first thing you learn in the first 3 days of the Vipassana technique. You're asked to just observe your breath going in, how deep it is, how shallow it is, where you feel the breath. But most importantly, there's a specific region that they ask you to pay attention to. That way your mind gets concentrated. Now, when they're teaching you, of course, they'll tell you about other techniques. They'll tell you if you use a mantra or if you count, sometimes you breathe in and you say 1 or 2 or whatever. If you use that kind of technique, it has its place, but this is not that kind of technique. They're not asking you to count. They're not asking you to use a mantra. They're not asking you to visualize any light or a saintly being or anything. It's observing the reality as it is. And as you might notice, every time you're observing the reality as it is, there's so many agitations in the mind. When these agitations arise while you're trying to pay attention to your breath, sometimes you will notice a change in your breath because your mind is conditioned to reacting to these things. Your mind is conditioned to react to whatever is happening within the mind or within the body. Some people start feeling physical sensations even as early as like the 3rd day or the 2nd day. But the first exercise they'll lead you through is to pay attention to your breath. I remember sitting in the Dharma hall for my first retreat, and by day 3 I noticed that there were so many thoughts within the mind. In Eastern tradition, it's called the monkey mind, and we've talked about this a lot. Most times we don't realize what's going on within our mind. We don't pay attention, so we keep being pulled in by different things. One thought pulls you this way, the other one pulls you that way, and you go with whatever is pulling you. Wherever it takes you is where you go. But the purpose of the technique is for you to focus. You see those things, but your concentration is on the breath. I remember sitting in the Dhamma hall on day 3, and the thoughts were flooding in. It's almost, in my mind, I was thinking, is this how chaotic the mind is? I don't want to say my mind, because at that point I was just thinking, is this how chaotic the mind is? Like, why does it feel like a stream that's flowing? It's one thing after the other, after the other, after the other. It's literally like a monkey jumping from one branch to another. And I remembered, you're supposed to be focusing on the breath. There's no need for me to pay attention to the passing thoughts. I'm supposed to pay attention to my breath. It doesn't mean that the thoughts have gone away, but they kind of become like background music. They fall in the back, and then you get ahead of the energy. So you're just sitting there observing your breath despite the thoughts. So you're not being pulled in by them. You're not. If a thought arises, you see it for what it is. And then you'll notice very quickly another one will arise. And then that will pass away as well. And another one will keep arising. That's what they teach you in the initial stages of practicing Vipassana. When you get past those 3 days, you have to have something in mind of where you want to go and what the reason is that, what's your why for, practicing this technique. It has to go beyond trying to heal a certain illness within your body. It has to transcend all of that. It has a lot to do with becoming aware and learning how to just be balanced and composed no matter what is happening within life. Because I think most of us, that's where the difficulty is. It's you see things and then you get pulled in by them. We let emotions govern us. We let thoughts govern us. It's one thought comes up and then you think to yourself, oh, it's the truth. It's not the truth. And with practicing the Vipassana technique, you start to really question everything that you believe. You really start to question everything that you have believed to be true. You start to question a lot of things. Am I sure of my perceptions? And you will most definitely realize that a lot of us are not sure of our perceptions. We just go with how we are feeling. We just go with what we are thinking, and then we call that the truth. But now when you start observing what's going on within you, you start to see the truth from the lie. And so that's what we are going to be exploring today. Above everything else, I need you to understand that mind precedes all phenomena. We spend a lot of time taking in things externally, but everything that you see on the outside started as something on the inside, It started within the mind. And so if you're not training your mind on what to do, or if you're not training your mind to serve you, then you become a slave to your mind. If you do not master what's going on within, you will most definitely keep suffering for things that your mind creates. And so this technique deals with consciousness. When you sit down on a mat, because usually we practice while sitting, you become conscious, or you become aware of. And what is consciousness? Consciousness is to know. No perceptions, just knowing. And then what comes after consciousness, for most of us, most of the times, it's perception. You know something, or you are aware of something, but then now you perceive something. When you perceive something, it means you have recognized that something. And what does it mean to recognize something? You either recognize something based off of your own biases, your memories, in the past, or whatever it is that you have experienced before. That's perception, Perception deals with memory. Perception deals with past experiences. Perception, in my perspective, can be biased, So then what happens after? What happens after you have perceived something? When you have perceived something, then a sensation arises. Perception is then what gives this sensation a valuation. Have you ever been in a situation? I'm sure we all have. You've been in a situation where someone says something that's very nice. Oh, someone says, oh, you have such beautiful hair. Then you feel all these good feelings. You're just like, oh my God, thank you so much. Then someone says something terrible to you. Maybe, oh, I don't like your shoes. And then instantly something else also happens on a physical level. But now it takes a lot of practice for you to get to this level, to get to the point where you not only perceive, but you're aware of what happens on a physical level when certain things are said or done to you. It takes a certain kind of bodily awareness, because with the technique of Vipassana, you are dealing with a mind-body phenomena, mind-body connection. You realize how the mind influences the body and the body can influence the mind. So if someone says something pleasant to you, you crave it. It becomes like a craving. Oh, she said I'm beautiful. Oh, he said I look good. Or she said I'm handsome. Or, whatever it is, it's a pleasant thing. So there might be some sort of attachment to the pleasantness of that thing that's been said to you. And then if something unpleasant is said, the inverse is also true. You get you develop some kind of aversion towards either the person or what they have said, or both, So you have consciousness, then you have perception, then you have sensation. Now, when you proceed past sensation, there's something else that happens. And this, according to S.N. Goenka, is what he calls a sankhara. A sankhara is a reaction. Depending on how you deal with situations in your life, you might either react physically or verbally, whatever it is. You have kind of created either I like this or I do not like this. These things become very apparent to you when you start to really pay attention to what's happening within the framework of the body. They become apparent to you that when I'm angry, my heart feels contracted. When I'm nervous, my stomach, sometimes I feel like there's something happening within my gut. When I'm happy, there's something happening on a physical level. We know these things, but we're not aware of why these things are happening. And so we kind of just go through life being letting our emotions dictate us. But this technique brings you closer to the truth. It brings you closer to the reality as it is. And in exploring your mind and body in such a manner, you start to understand that, if I plant seeds of anger, then I will keep wallowing in that anger for a very long time. And it doesn't stop with just you. You then want to pass it on to other people. If you are feeling joy, usually it's the same thing. You want to extend it to other people. So then it becomes a thing of, what seeds am I planting? You have to ask yourself that question. What seeds am I planting today? The example that we're given by S.N. Goenka during the discourse is, many of us understand how nature works. When it comes down to our own lives, we do not see how the law of nature applies to us. We do not see the impermanence of things. We do not pay attention to things as simple as paying attention to the seeds that we plant or to the things that we do. S.N. Goenka gives us an example of someone planting seeds of a neem tree and someone planting seeds of a mango, sweet mangoes. And so when time for harvesting comes, someone who planted the neem, the neem seeds, then is asking, oh no, I want to get mangoes. I want to get mangoes, but you did not plant mangoes. Somehow you expect the mangoes to come in place of the neem seeds that you planted. It's the same phenomena here. It's the same principle. If you plant seeds of rage, if you plant seeds of anger, if you plant seeds of unkindness, if you plant seeds of any unpleasantness that you plant or any pleasantness that you plant thereof, is what you will reap. I mean, it's a very simple thing. We really understand it. It's a thing of you reap what you sow. We say these things on an intellectual level. Most of us understand it. Oh, you reap what you sow. But then we do not go ahead to practice. We do not go ahead to explore what these things actually mean. And so with this technique, you start to understand those things. So I want us to also talk about wisdom, which is something that comes up a lot while you're on the retreat. You're taught about wisdom. There's wisdom that comes from hearing and other people speak about certain things. There's wisdom that comes from reading. That's great wisdom. It's great for you to learn. It's good for you to hear words of inspiration or for you to read words of inspiration, and that has its place in the world. But if you listen to these words and leave them where they are, then they are not going to make any impact in your life. Or if you read these words and leave them right in the book, they're not going to make any impact on your life. The words that you read or the words that you listen to should be able to inspire you to move past just I know something, but to a point where you actually then start to understand something. So it moves from hearing and reading to an intellectual understanding of it. What is the speaker trying to tell me? So if the words that you have read or listened to inspire you to then come up with your own thoughts about what it is that you have read or what it is that you have listened to, if you then start to ask the right questions about the material that you've exposed yourself to, this also has its place in the world. It's great. You have an intellectual understanding of whatever is being said. You begin to pay attention. This kind of wisdom has to transcend beyond just hearing and listening, beyond just an intellectual understanding. It has to get to a point where you experience these things on a personal level within oneself. It's the old tale of how to learn. When you're learning, it doesn't help if you read books about how to be a great actor and and then you figure out all the techniques and you can explain them very properly to another person. But then when it comes down to the experience of it, you don't practice. So the wisdom that you acquire should be wisdom on an experiential level. And this is what the technique teaches you. It teaches you that everything that you know to be the truth can only be learned on an experiential level. You have to then move past just believing. You have to move past blind devotion. You have to move past blind faith, and then start to live life in the way that perhaps you have heard is good, or in the way that you have perceived is good. So I'll speak to Christianity as a religion. I think that most of us have become passive Christians. It's that if I stand within the church, if I stand with a lot of people in church and say, Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, then I have accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and that's all it is. Well, tell you what, you have listened and someone told you, yeah, it would be good if you gave your life to Jesus Christ, and it would be good if you did A, B, C, D, but you haven't practiced. You haven't practiced the path that Jesus walked. The only way to know the way is to walk the way. You cannot live life by just sitting somewhere and intellectualizing everything. You cannot live life by just hearing and reading. You have to live life on an experiential level. You go out there. If Jesus Christ was preaching about love, what does love look like on the path that Jesus Christ walked? Then you start to walk in the way that Jesus Christ did. Whichever saintly person that you believe in, or whichever saintly person that you think speaks to your spirit or speaks to your soul, then you walk the path. So this is what the path is about. You must walk the path. You must walk the path. And when you're walking the path, it means you follow these different, perhaps you follow these different principles that these different saintly people have left behind. And in that way, you then discover, oh, this is why I should be doing this. This is why I should love people. Because when I love people, I'm really loving myself. When I show kindness to another person, I'm really showing kindness to myself. And the inverse is also true. When I'm not kind to other people, I'm really being unkind to myself. When I do not love other people, I'm also not showing love to me, So this is the wisdom that comes on an experiential level. This is what you will learn with the technique. When you start practicing the technique of Vipassana, you realize how much lies at the depth level of the unconscious mind, what we call the unconscious mind, but which is in fact always conscious. Think of an iceberg. At the tip, we have the conscious mind, and at the bottom, we have the unconscious mind. We all know that the biggest part of the iceberg is what lies beneath. And so if you're not aware of what lies beneath at the bottom, then everything that you think is conscious usually is actually influenced by what is unconscious. So the feelings, the thoughts, the beliefs, the patterns, they all come from the bottom of the unconscious mind. And the way for you to make the unconscious conscious is by paying attention, being aware. Are you aware of things as they are? Are you aware of what's happening within your mind? Are you aware of how your beliefs influence how you show up in the world? Are you aware of how your thoughts dictate how you navigate the world, or your feelings? And this takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of practice. I'm telling you these things, but in a way, I'm also reminding myself of these things. I'm teaching myself these things again. Because the truth is, even when you start walking the path, it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy, that, oh, you're always going to be aware of what you're doing. But that's the work. You have to, even in this moment, I have to be aware of it, of what it is that I am saying. And I have to be present, because awareness can only be of the present. It cannot be of the past or of the future. Awareness is ever present. It is here. Now, right now, not anywhere, not in the past, not in the future. If you say you are aware of the past, that's not awareness. That is you remembering what happened in the past. If you say that you are aware of the future, that is in fact a lie, because you can only have aspirations and dreams and ambitions of the future, or projections of the future. But ideally, all you have is right now, right here. This doesn't mean that you can't borrow lessons from the past. Learn to consult the past only when you see it as relevant to the present. Learn to make goals and ambitions without necessarily fixating on where you want to go. Even in practicing this meditation technique, one of the things that you need to learn, no matter how difficult it gets, it's in the journey that you actually discover a lot. So as you walk step by step, each step that you take, that's how you learn. You don't fixate on the destination, because when you fixate on the destination, then you miss the journey. And if you use the past, if you keep referencing the past, then you lose your balance of what is here. There's nothing that you can change about the past, but you can use the past as your teacher, so that your past is a guide and not like a tormentor. Not that in every time you look back, you beat yourself up about things that you've done in the past. You have to give yourself grace, because you were operating at the level of consciousness that you could at that time. And now that you're walking the path, trust where you're going. Trust that what you're doing now will lead you to that final destination, without necessarily craving that final destination to come to you. And if you walk in this way, you will be liberated, even as you walk the path. So no matter how painful it gets, no matter how unpleasant it feels, sometimes you will have joy, even within the unpleasantness of it. I'm thinking of a quote that I read somewhere. I can't remember who said it, but the quote says, peace is not the absence of chaos, but it's the ability for you to embrace the chaos and just... Literally, the word is right there. Embrace it. You embrace the chaos and understand that this too shall come to pass indeed. These are different principles that are taught across different religions, but we kind of just read things and intellectualize them, and then we make sense of them within the head, and we forget to actually leave out the things that we learn. We forget to learn through experience. We forget to make these words a part of our lives and how we live them. So when you start to work in this way and you realize what lies at the unconscious level of the mind, then you start to accept it, because without acceptance, you can't move forward. It's the same thing we talked about when we were saying knowing thyself. We said, the purpose of knowing thyself is not to make you feel bad about the fact that perhaps you're a very obnoxious person. No, it's for you to know and then say, it's okay that it's like this, but I can change it if I want to. So that's the purpose. You make everything, you bring it up to your awareness. That way you know what you're working with. In that way, you have to wake up. This is a call to wake up, to awaken to your unconscious patterns, to awaken to your unconscious beliefs, to awaken to your unconscious thoughts and feelings. And you will realize that the mind is full of so many sleeping volcanoes, as S.N. Goenka calls them, and they're waiting to erupt. And by the way, for anyone who's listening and asking themselves, what's the purpose of me making the unconscious conscious? Well, ignoring something is not dealing with it. Suppressing and repressing something is not dealing with it. Because you know what? It's waiting to erupt at the exact time it needs to. Sometimes we keep covering things up. We keep covering them up until one day your mind, your body can't take it anymore. I keep talking about this book entitled The Body Keeps Score. I found it so interesting that everything we experience is registered on a physical level. And for people who have been through traumatic experiences, they know this. And yet, even if you know this much, that your body is a storage system, you forget it. The one thing any Vipassana meditator would tell you is they were not aware of how much pain was within the body. Because whatever is happening in the mind also happens on a physical level. And so sometimes pain comes up, sometimes pleasantness comes up. But right now, I think I might be speaking Greek to a lot of people. Someone might say, Tracy, what do you mean I have sensations on my body? Well, let me bring it home. When you take hot tea, you feel it on your tongue. There's a sensation that comes and you're like, oh my God, I burnt myself. I burnt my tongue. How did you know you burnt your tongue? It's because you took something that was too hot. There's something else that happens on a physical level when you're agitated, when you're angry, when you're out of balance. Your breath will change. That is certain. You can trust that. Your breath will change. I remember when I first got a panic attack. I do not know what was happening. I thought I'm definitely going to die. Keep in mind, I know that sounds a bit hyperbolic, but that's literally how it felt. My heart contracted. I forgot how to breathe. I was in a car, and Uganda is a tropical place. And so the fact that environmentally it was already hot, but then I was seated within a car. And instead of remembering at that point that, hey, you can just put your window down and let in the air, I couldn't think. It's and in saying this, that's exactly what happens when you lose touch of your breath or the normalcy of your breath. You deprive your brain of oxygen, and so in a moment like that, like say when you're getting a panic attack, everything feels so small. It felt like my body was failing me. It felt like I could not breathe. I could not breathe. I could not think, because the other thing I could have done was open the door and walked outside. But it took me so much time to get to that point. And eventually, this was the year 2021, eventually I stepped out of the car. And that process of moving, walking around, is what then brought me back into balance, because now my body was moving and I guess the breath was moving in a different way. But if I had stayed in the car, I don't know what would have happened. It was a very scary experience for me. The reason why you practice in this way is to realize the conditioning of the mind. And it's a lifelong practice. It requires consistency, it requires patience, it requires discipline, it requires determination. If you do decide to take on this practice, know that it's not going to be an easy path, but it's a path that will liberate you. It's a path that will free you from lots of the pain that you feel or the misery that you feel. And it will allow you to be more awake in more of your moments, moment to moment awareness. It's necessary for you to transform, for you to experience transformation that's on a deeper and subtler level. I want to very briefly talk about the good mental qualities that you're taught through the Vipassana technique. We have morality. I think this is self-explanatory, which is the reason why you accept the precepts that you're given at the beginning to abstain from killing any being. By the way, this doesn't mean just human beings. Any being, insects, fish, you name it. As long as it's a being and it has life, you abstain from doing that. You abstain from telling lies. You abstain from using intoxicants. So this discipline deals with the mental quality of morality. The other good mental quality is effort. I was talking to a friend of mine and I told him, hey, I'm giving it my best. And he said, no, I don't want you to give it your best. I want you to give it your all. Because your best and your all are completely different things. And now, please hear me out. I had never thought about it in this way, because I have always been told that your best is always good enough. And that is true. Your best is always good enough. It will always be good enough. But your all is the best. Do you get what I mean? Because you've given everything. You've given everything. You are so passionate about something, you give it everything. And that's what you do when you practice this technique. When you go in for the technique, you surrender completely. You give it your all, because you've left your phone behind. You've decided, I'm not going to speak to anyone. For these 10 days, I have decided that I will not interact with anyone. I will not disturb anyone's peace. I will not steal. I will not lie. I will not kill anything. And in that way, it gives you time to really go inward. It gives you time to put a lot of effort in what you're doing. You show up every day, no matter how difficult it is. You give it everything that you have in you for that day. And that's what they call right effort. It's one of the good mental qualities. And if you apply any of these qualities, by the way, to any assets, to any aspects of your life, they will serve you well. So even if you don't intend on practicing this technique, know that even if you apply these good mental qualities to any aspect of your life, you will see the rewards of it. And perhaps, maybe, I don't know, maybe you'll be drawn to practice the technique, which is what I hope you do. Because I genuinely believe that for you to make any significant and transformational changes within your life, you have to start with the mind. The mind is where it is, because everything is mind med. That's the way I can tell it to you. The other good mental quality that you want to explore is tolerance. Many of us, me myself included, we tend to be intolerant of people. Because we know certain things and how they should happen, And because maybe perhaps sometimes we're doing these things already, we're so intolerant of other people who do not know how to do certain things or who do not respond in the way that we want them to respond. And I've experienced this so many times, because you know how to do something, you expect other people to know how to do it. I don't know if any of you have been in a workspace where perhaps there's someone at work who's supposed to be teaching you how to do something. It's something you probably haven't done before, but every time you ask questions, it's a thing of, are you serious? That's intolerance. And the fact that you are intolerant towards other people, it means you're intolerant towards yourself. That's the other thing that you will keep learning about this technique, is that everything you extend to another person, if you look within, it's the same way you deal with yourself. And so I quickly realized this as well. When I started out the technique, I realized the tendency to be intolerant of other people is also a tendency to be intolerant of myself, because now you think of yourself, your ego. You think of yourself higher than, and that's your ego. Your ego says, I can't tolerate that. Your ego says, I can't deal with that. And all these things it's aversions. You're saying, no. It's important for you to learn how to tolerate other people, because we are not the same people. We are the same people, but we're not the same people. And you have to extend that grace and that you have to extend grace and love towards other people. The other mental quality is strong determination. When you set out on a path to do something, whether it's in pursuit of your dreams, no matter how impossible they seem, you have to have strong determination. You have to be determined to show up, to do everything that you can to the best of your capabilities to make sure that you see that dream come to life. Without obsessing, without clinging, without craving, without refusing certain parts of the process that do not work for you. I will give you a very recent example, something that happened to me when I started shooting the pod. I thought it would be so easy because, you'd imagine that, you've been on TV before, you've been on radio before. This should be very easy for you. My friend, my first day of shoot was so difficult. Oh, my sound recordist is behind smiling. He would be able to tell you I had such a difficult day. And you know what? I almost threw in the towel, but the why of doing this podcast is so much stronger than the emotions and the thoughts that I felt on that day. And so we have kept on going. We are here. We're still going to keep going. So you have to have that kind of strong determination. So in practicing Vipassana, that's one of the things they ask you. That's one of the things they ask you to do. You have to have strong determination, because the pain that you feel within your body, like I said, you need to just speak to someone who has been through a 10-day course or 21 days. There's so many, but you need to speak to someone who practices Vipassana for you to understand the level of pain that you feel. And you sit like that for 1 hour, 3 times a day with that strong determination. It's something called aditana. You sit for 3 hours every day without moving, without flinching. Oh my God, it's painful. But when you get through the pain, what comes after that it's ineffable. It's not something I can explain to you. It's not an experience I can describe to you. One of the other things, or one of the other mental qualities that I've learned through the Vipassana technique, is pure, selfless love. Yes. Oh my God. So many of us don't realize how tainted our love is and how conditional it is. And in saying this, I want you to think of the experiences that you've had as a child or in school, either in your home or at school, or even within your workspace. When you're doing something right, there's a lot of love. Actually, I'm thinking of something. I'm thinking of something that a cousin of mine said. Success has many parents, but failure is an orphan, my friend. You need to keep that in mind. But now, pure selfless love that you learn through the technique of Vipassana is you accept yourself the way that you are, no matter how you are. So at the depth of it all these mindfulness practices are teaching you how to be okay with your home, no matter how it is. Even if your home has sometimes I get so caught up in like doing the pod that I want to speak Luganda or like my mother tongue. So you will bear with me for the people who are listening elsewhere in the world. But yeah, so you have to be okay with the home that you've built, because if you've not accepted the home that you've built within yourself, then there's no way for you to walk through it and figure out what things in your home need to be removed, what things need to be added. And so pure selfless love, not just for yourself, but also as an extension for other people. I'm thinking again of the Bible verse, love thy neighbor as you love thyself. The problem is many of us do not love ourselves. And so we love other people in the same way. But once you learn how to extend pure, unadulterated love to yourself, it's the same way you approach people. You start to see other people as a means to learn about yourself. You start to see other people as mirrors, because when you stand in front of a mirror, it reflects whatever is standing in front of it. So many times we're constantly blaming other people outside of us for things that are happening within us. It's because we're conditioned to. There are already things that are happening on a physical and mental level that you're not aware of. But in practicing this technique, you'll start to see these things, and therefore you'll start to give yourself love and you'll start to extend it to other people. Now, I think I'm going to call it the peak or the most important mental quality in my perspective of the Vipassana technique is equanimity. Your ability to stay balanced and composed when things are going hellfire. Your ability to maintain your calm and composure even in difficult situations. That's what we call equanimity. Difficult situations arise, pleasant situations arise, and in every situation, you are balanced, you are composed, understanding that everything is in fact impermanent, that everything that you feel, whether good or bad, as we like to term things, they're all passing away. Nothing stays frozen in time, and everything is always changing, ever changing. Now, we understand this from the perspective of, oh my God, the weather. The sun was so bright yesterday. Today it's hidden somewhere behind the clouds. It doesn't mean that the sun isn't there. It's just behind the clouds, or it's raining today. The leaves were so green last month. The leaves have fallen off the trees. These are all seasons. We understand that when we observe nature, but we do not understand that when we observe the nature within ourselves. And that is the gift that Vipassana will give you. The greatest gift that Vipassana will give you is awareness of things and equanimity through all things. Awareness of things and equanimity through all things. You kind of just see things and then you're like, this is what it is. It's not, we always say it is what it is, but do you really mean it? It is what it is. You don't really mean, most of us don't actually mean it when we say it is what it is. If you say that it is what it is, then everything is okay. The good is okay. The unpleasant is okay. Everything is okay as it is, because it will pass away and something else will come, and you will have to accept that as well. So the purpose of this technique is to practice the art of living and the art of dying, in my perspective. When you first go in for the course, you start to die to the self, the ego self, the I, the mine, the me. It all starts to fall away. Now, for purposes of living in the world that we live in, of course, sometimes you will need to use those statements. I built an airplane and I was the first woman to do this. Those things have their place. But once you start practicing the Vipassana technique, you realize that in as much as these things are happening, you do not identify with them. They should not be the foundation of your identity. You shouldn't grasp or like cling to them. You shouldn't use I as a way to cling, to crave, or to be averse to things. That's where the imbalance of the mind is. When we crave, when we cling, when we desire, it's important for us to know what we stand for. It's important for us to know who we are. It's important. All these things are important, but then it's also important for us to leave room for things to just keep flowing. The essence of life is flow, not rigidity. Things don't have to stay frozen in time. You have to be flexible. For you to allow yourself to grow, you have to be flexible. You have to allow your mind to be open. You have to allow your heart to be open in every experience, by the way. So the purpose of this technique in particular, as taught by S.N. Goenka, is to learn the art of leaving. You learn to live with things as they are. You learn to also die to yourself. Now that we've explored what Vipassana is, I want to ask you to pick out just one thing today that stood out for you. Whether it's what we discussed on wisdom, whether it's what we discussed on observing your breath, whether it's what we discussed about the good mental qualities that you can possess through this technique, pick out just one thing that stood out for you and then use that this week. Remember, this is about being aware of things. This is also about developing equanimity, balance, and composure through all situations. And so right now, wherever you are, if you are in a position where you can actually take time to go through this mindfulness exercise with me, I'd like for you to take a seat wherever you are with your back upright and with your feet touching the ground, so we can just take time to slow down. The world is constantly competing for our attention. And now, more than ever, it's important for you to be attentive, to pay attention to everything, by the way, not just what's going on within you, but also things that are happening outside of you. Because it's not enough to just have intrapersonal knowledge. You also need knowledge of the world so that you know how to exist within that world. You have to exist with other people. Interpersonal knowledge is important, knowledge of others. And we also need to have knowledge of the world that we function in order for us to function in harmony with that world. So I ask you to sit upright with your feet touching the ground. Let's go through a mindfulness exercise. Today in particular, I want you to observe how you feel within your body. Pay attention to your breath. The breath going in. The breath going out. Where do you feel the breath? Do you feel it in your stomach? Where do you feel your breath? Is it in the area of your chest? Is it deep? Is it shallow? Is it fast? Or is it slow? Wherever you feel the breath the most, just stay with the breath. Pay attention. Observe. Be here. And if you're not yet able to observe the breath as it is, inhale deeply and exhale deeply through your nose. Inhale deeply and exhale deeply through your nose. One more time. Inhale deeply as you can. And exhale through your nose completely. Allow the breath to be as it is. Are you able to feel anything within the framework of your body? If you're not able to, that's okay. Observe this too. As you go out into this week, I want you to come up with one question that you need answers to. Write it down after this mindfulness exercise. And practice mindfulness before you approach this question, whenever you approach this question. You can open your eyes. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Refined for the Mind. Enjoy your week and be happy. Bye.